welcome. Here we go. It's that time again. Matt Connarton Unleashed, and we are live from the studios of WMNH 95.3 FM in glorious downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. Also on Comcast 97 in Manchester, streaming at WMNHradio.org. And on the Facebook, on the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page. And, of course, you can go to my website, mattconnerton.com, for all of your live streaming options and social media links and contact info and phone numbers and email addresses and archives of the show, etc., etc. And hello to our friends at Raw Talk Online. It is Tuesday, June 1, 2021. Hello, everybody. By the way, we are also, from what I understand, we are in 3D and in Technicolor as we begin unofficially. It's unofficially the start of summer. Of course, summer doesn't really begin until, what is it, the 21st, 22nd of June, somewhere around there. But it's hot. It's hot and sticky. It's like 80 degrees. It's summer. It's summer now. It was summer a couple of weeks ago here. Let's see. And it is the start of the week, a short week this week, of course. We're beginning on Tuesday. We had a Monday holiday because of Memorial Day. I hope everyone had a nice Memorial Day weekend, the long weekend. And as I say that, I realize that may have been deeply offensive to Nikki Haley. If she happens to have been listening, former UN ambassador and, of course, former governor of, was it Louisiana? She got very upset. Nikki Haley over the weekend got very upset with Vice President Kamala Harris, calling her unprofessional and unfit for office because she had the temerity to tweet out something about enjoy the holiday weekend or something like that. And Nikki Haley presenting an argument that our vice president, completely disrespectful to our troops and to the veterans who we rightly celebrate and memorialize on Memorial Day. Of course, all of our brave men and women who have died for this country, who have perished in the line of duty, and Nikki Haley thought this was terribly disrespectful for Kamala Harris to just tweet out, enjoy the weekend or something like that. I forget what the exact verbiage is, ignoring the true meaning of Memorial Day. Now, actually, funny thing about that, it turns out, in case you didn't know, Kamala Harris earlier in the day did make some comments and some tweets about what Memorial Day is really about and the true meaning of it and the importance of it and so on and so forth. And then also some people on Twitter noticed that Nikki Haley, when making her comments, she also posted a picture of herself with her son at the beach. Apparently enjoying, apparently they dared to enjoy their Memorial Day weekend outdoors at the beach. But, hey, what are you going to do, right? I mean, it's obvious what Nikki Haley is doing. She's gonna play this game. They always, and this is what they always do when there's Democrats in power. You saw a lot of this during the Obama administration. Any opportunity they could take to say, aha, look at that. Look at what President Obama did there. Look at what he said. He wished somebody a happy Memorial Day. He clearly, see, if you needed any more proof than that he actually hates America and isn't even a real American, see, that's what they would have been saying about Obama. And I'm sure they did at various times when he, said things like happy Memorial Day or enjoy the weekend. Look at that Obama. He hates America. So you're going to see a lot of that over the course of the Biden administration as well. And Kamala Harris, because she is a person of color, you'll see a little extra. It'll be a little extra. I think the young people say that these days. Nikki Haley was a little extra over the weekend, as she's tweeting from the beach. So anyway, I hope my saying, I hope everyone enjoyed the Memorial Day weekend. I hope that didn't trigger anyone. Anyway, I do hope you enjoyed the weekend. And See, because it's not a binary choice, more than one thing can be true at one time. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people think everything is black and white, left or right. So I'm going to combine these things. These things can coexist. I hope you enjoyed the holiday weekend, and I hope that you took time to reflect on what Memorial Day is actually really about. Oh my goodness, you can do two things at once. You can actually have, did you know this? You can have two different thoughts in your head at the same time about something. It's amazing, isn't it? See, a lot of people don't know that. So they think you can either wish someone enjoyment during their long weekend, or you can reflect on what Memorial Day is really supposed to be about. They don't know that you can do both at once. See, that's, so for anyone who has been unclear on that, I hope I've been helpful to you on this. Let's see. But yes, it is the beginning of the week because we were off yesterday. Sometimes on some holidays, we will still be here live, but Memorial Day is a very important holiday, so we did take yesterday off, as did the morning show. But you can give us a call today if you'd like to enter the conversation. 603-250-6007, 603-250-6007. You can also text me at 617-917-4476. Tweet me at Matt Connarton, or send an email to matt@mattconnerton.com. And of course, you can always opine and interact in the Facebook Live chat. But the best thing to do so that we can hear and enjoy your dulcet tones is to give us a call at 603-250-6007. Let's see. Programming note, Thursday, Easy G will be Skyping in with his entertainment report. He will not be here in person as far as I know, but he will be Skyping in. And I believe our friend Christian Lacoste will be joining us live in the studio as well. So, which is good, because if Easy G, for some reason, if he doesn't come through on the Skype, maybe Christian can do the entertainment report. But yeah, so and I think John Hopwood wants to. I got some text messages from John Hopwood, but I need to go back and read them more carefully. I'm a little unclear on what he was trying to put across, but I think he might be in studio with us tomorrow. Let's see. Well, I do want to remind you, of course, about our wonderful sponsor, the Hop Knot, in the Brady Sullivan at 1000 Elm Street, right across the street on this beautiful day. However, don't go there today. Monday and Tuesday is their weekend, but they will be open tomorrow. Of course, they have delicious gourmet pretzels. They have craft beer. They have wine. They've got every Thursday night is trivia night, hosted by the great Bill Cini. Fridays, they have live music. Our friend Grant Lampton, of course, doing a residency there, playing there every Friday night. They have Sunday brunch. They've got a big weekend coming up for Juneteenth, the weekend of June 19th. That's going to be very big this year. They did do something to commemorate that last year, but they were somewhat limited in what they could do because of the pandemic. So this year it's going to be a very, very big deal. And I think there's still time, too, for you to get involved if you are a business, an organization of some kind, a charity, whatever it may be. If you'd like to be a business partner with the Hop Knot regarding Juneteenth, I can put you in touch with Kenny over there. Just send me an email, matt@mattconnerton.com. That's the easiest way to get in touch with me, and I'll connect you with Kenny and Trudy at the Hop Knot. But yeah, Juneteenth is going to be a very big deal here. There's going to be live music. There's going to be presentations. There's a scavenger hunt that some of the businesses here in Manchester are participating in. It's going to be a very big deal here. And also, too, if you're just interested in sponsorship here at WMNH, again, shoot me an email, matt@mattconnerton.com. I would love to talk with you. Again, the number is 603-250-6007. But let's take a moment and say hello to everybody in the Facebook Live chat. Wayne Noel joins us. Wayne is a top fan all the way from Michigan. Hello, Wayne. Mike Pelopita joins us. Mike is also one of our sponsors here, Queen City Cabinetry in the historic Sunbeam Mall. So Mike is and Queen City Cabinetry, big supporters of all the shows here and of WMNH, and we appreciate that very much. Jenny is in the chat room and says, "Shalom, peeps." I see Christian Lacoste in the chat room as well. We'll say hello to everyone else in a moment, but we have a call. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
You're just too handsome for your shirt.
I'm too handsome for my shirt. I remember that song, a little right, said Fred there. Is that what you were going for?
I kind of liked it because it was kind of catchy, you know?
It was catchy, but, one-hit wonders, Couldn't follow it up, but how could you? It's a song about being sexy. What's up, Crazy Joe?
Well, I'm at an outside cafe over here in my town of Rhinebeck here. And I noticed that the only problem with this town is that everybody's too proper, people will talk to you, but a lot of standoffish type of people, they look like they don't want to be bothered, So I was going to finish up my meal over here. I'm in an outside cafe, and I was going to interview some people, but I don't know if that's going to really work out,
Yeah, people there are a little bit, sounds like the Northeast in general in a lot of ways. I mean, I find, like around here, people are nice once you get to know them, but a lot of times strangers are kind of a little bit, whoa, you and I don't know each other. Why are you even looking in my general direction? You know what I mean? It's a lot of that. It's the Northeast. I think it's the cold weather.
You may have a good valid point there. So, like, if I went down to, let's say, Nevada, Arizona, Texas, maybe Kansas City, I'm sure the attitude would be a little bit different compared to the Northeast, right?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. Anywhere that I've been, I've been down south and I've spent some time in the Midwest. My mother was she grew up in the Midwest. She grew up in Chicago, and when my parents split up and she moved back out there, I would spend the summers out there with her. But she would often say that when she first came to New Hampshire, she was a little bit surprised at how people are with strangers. There's a certain standoffishness there that doesn't exist in other parts of the country.
Wow. So, I don't know. For some reason, I've been looking at Kansas City. Not that I'm going to go, but I heard some good things about there. I had a passenger, and then he was riding with me. He lived upstate. He moved to Kansas City, and he got hooked up pretty quick down there. So, it's the Midwest, I guess, anywhere past the Northeast, right?
Hooked up in what way, Joe?
Well, he met a couple women there. I think he was going out with one for a while. He went to these bars. I think I'd be a big hit in any bar in the Midwest. I think they would like surround me, say like, wow, man, you got personality, much better than we do up here.
Right. They might even, although things could turn ugly if they become envious of your personality. They might challenge you to a barroom brawl or something. That would be terrible. Although I'm sure you could fight your way through it. You're Crazy Joe.
Well, but I'm human. Even Jenny could beat me up.
Yeah, well, yeah, she probably could. She's pretty tough.
She's a tough girl. She's a tough girl,
Oh, yeah. That she is.
But I just want to say, since I have the podium, how grateful I am to Matt, for saving my radio life. It wasn't going anywhere, and all of a sudden I'm being invited to do certain things, and I don't know if I should say it on the air. It might be a little prematurely, but I'm so happy beyond happy. I've been telling everybody the good news about our friendship and our professional friendship that's going to happen. Matter of fact, I'm dressed like a star today. I'm wearing a 1950 shirt.
Ooh.
I got my crosses on me. I got my good cool shades. And I look like a rock star. I'm all in black. I got white sneakers. You got to see me, and because I want to see what's going on out there, And I'm so proud that the show is going to be out of this freaking world. It's almost like I'm having daydreams.
Wow.
I have to pinch myself. That's how intense my feelings are to do that first show. Wherever I wind up, thanks to you. It's just incredible. It's a feeling that And it'll go away, of course, but I think it's just going to be there all the time, Matt.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're to me, you're like, you're like my guardian angel.
Oh, well, thank you, Crazy Joe. That's a lot of pressure, but thank you. Thank you. And now Christian Lacoste is in the Facebook live chat. Now, you and Christian, you had a little bit of a discussion, a spirited discussion last week. But Christian says in the chat, I'm stoked for him, but don't blank it up. So some advice from young Christian.
Oh, about my opportunities, right?
Yes, yes. I think he means don't lash out.
No. I'm going to be a different guy on terrestrial radio or your network. The Crazy Joe Show is basically something that I've been pushing for many years.
Yes.
And I think I'm good at it, but it's going to be more of a side project. Mm-hmm. That I'm going to get people to see. It's going to be posted warnings, 21 and over, R-rated, because I am kind of like a shock guy. But I could, I'm mature enough, and I've been around this world that I can, make the difference between, terrestrial and, the other part. Now, a few times when I called into the station in the very beginning, of course, I wanted to act crazy and be crazy and get that reputation, because of the fact that, I do the Crazy Joe Show. Mm-hmm. However, now that we're in a business proposition, we have to look at it, from a professional standpoint.
Yes, absolutely. All right. I think
so I want you to have the most confidence in me that I'm not going to mess it up, because I would never do anything to hurt you, Matt, because you're the one that gave me life. So,
oh, wow.
Just like a parent would say, I brought you in this world, I could take you out of this world.
Wow. Oh, okay. Well, fair enough. Well, thank you.
Right. Yeah, you're welcome. And okay, so look, I'm going to pay my bill over here.
Yes.
And I'm watching a lot of beautiful women go by, and, but a lot of them are hoity-toities and stuck up and all kinds of negative stuff that I'm not really into. They'll say hello, but they won't, react any more than that. So,
mm-hmm. They don't
know. It is a beautiful sight, I'll tell you, man. I love women. They're so gorgeous.
Don't they know? Don't they know who you are?
No, they don't.
Yeah,
because I'm not establishing. See, I need to make business cards. I need to make flyers. I'm going to be promoting your nation. I'm going to do a complete media blitz, and who knows if they'll. I think radio guys, it's harder to get to know us than actors. Like if I was an actor, they would spot me right away.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yes, if you were Keanu Reeves, they would be like, "Hey, it's Keanu Reeves."
Exactly.
That's literally what they would say.
A little bit. Some people would say we have a face for radio, right?
Oh, I hate that joke. Oh,
I know. No. I hate that too. We do hate it. I shouldn't have brought it up, but I was very stupid to bring that up. Because radio guys hate that crack, you know what I mean? They hate it.
We'll overlook it. I don't hate it because it's insulting. I just hate it because so many people say it, and everyone who's ever said it to me, like they say it like they're saying something original and clever, and it's like, no, dude, I've heard that literally 1,000 times, and it's there's a certain individual who used to call this station occasionally and said it and thought he was being clever, but I don't think we hear from him anymore. I think he's just probably at home lying down on his goose feather pillow. That's a little inside Crazy Joe. I don't expect you to know the reference.
Yeah, well, I'll never say it again. I promise you.
No, okay. I just heard. Was that a car peeling out? Is everything okay there? Is someone?
Yeah, I'm on the main street here of my town, and there's a municipal parking lot, or actually the bank parking lot, or the strip mall parking lot.
Someone just robbed a bank?
There's a lot of cars here and traffic. I'm literally on the sidewalk of a two-way busy street here in the village.
Yes. Oh, I see. All right, very good. Very good.
By the way, I bought a new phone. I got rid of the VTech because I heard the playback on Thursday, and it was horrendous at times.
This is much better.
I decided to buy, an AT&T.
Yep.
And two-phone system, and I think you're going to love the reception on it. I'm never going to try to make myself look bad like that again.
Yeah, no, it sounds much better. Much better. Okay. You still there? Joe, did we lose you? Oh, I think we lost him. All right, well, that was our friend Crazy Joe. It's ironic that he was telling us about his great new phone, which does sound significantly better than the phone he called in on previously, and yet right after he tells us about his great new phone, that we lose him. The call drops. But that's okay. But that's not about the phone itself, I'm sure. That's about the phone service. So there you go. All right. Well, that opens up a line for you, 603-250-6007, 603-250-6007. We'll finish saying hello to everybody in the chat room. Christian says, I feel like he's trying to take over the world. Not referring to Crazy Joe, of course, but during the opening song there, that Frankenstein at 9 by Jerry Noto. I had to make a radio edit of that one, but that, of course, features some of the vocal stylings of a Mr. Tom Gully. We learned a lot about Tom Gully over the weekend, but that's also a bit inside. But Christian says, I'm going to have nightmares. Gonzo is in the chat room. Hello, Gonzo, also known as Mike Gonzalez or Gonzales. Miriam Banish is a top fan and joins us in the chat. Wayne says, the Dems did the same to Trump, just a vicious circle. Yes, that's referring to, of course, what I was discussing earlier about Nikki Haley calling out Kamala Harris. And yes, I mean, there was a lot of that from the Democrats directed at Trump as well. I think everyone should, it'd be nice if everyone could just kind of politically could just kind of grow up and be more mature and stop with all of it. I mean, and I'm not both sides are guilty of it. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I'm an independent, but I do think we're going to see a lot of what we saw from Nikki Haley over the weekend. We are going to see a lot of that over the next few years. That's for sure. Oh, my God. And just imagine how much of it we're going to see if Kamala Harris eventually becomes president. Melanie La Liberty in the chat room says, interestingly enough, the more money provided by lobbyists has a direct effect on the number of things elected officials can do at once. Absolutely. Well, that's who as I like to call them, our elected lawgivers and overlords. That's who they work for. The lobbyists and the corporations, the fat cat corporate donors, the very wealthy who fund these campaigns. Some of us like to toil under this illusion, this fantasy that they work for us, we the people, we elect them, therefore they work for us. That is supposed to be how it goes. That's not actually how it goes. They care for us tremendously on Election Day. But other than that, like I said, it's really, it's all about the people who actually pay them. They're paymasters. So very true, Melanie. Scott Robinson joins us in the Facebook live chat. Scott is a top fan and says, hope he's feeling better. I assume referring to our friend Crazy Joe. DJ Reckless is in the chat room. DJ Reckless, by the way, bears a striking resemblance to Christian Lacoste. I've never seen them in the same room at the same time, so I'm getting a little bit suspicious. But DJ Reckless says, big shout out to everyone who came out to see me play with my homie DJ J Samurai Sunday. It was an absolute blast. Yes, speaking of residencies, DJ Reckless has been doing the 603 Bar and Grill. I keep wanting to call it Panucci's, but the now rechristened as the 603 Bar and Grill right up the street on Elm Street here in downtown Manchester, and has been spectacularly successful with it. Christian says, I might not be coming Thursday. I have to make up a day of work as I was able to take yesterday off to catch up on 16 hours of sleep. Well, Christian did get his second shot of the vaccine, of the Moderna, if I'm not mistaken. And it kind of put him on his backside for a little bit there. Jenny says, I'm making salad. Kenny is working on Juneteenth today. Yes, Kenny from the Hop Knot, working on Juneteenth, which is coming up in a little under 3 weeks now. Let's see. Christian says, talk about how he harassed my friend Veronette. Yeah, so Christian is referring to, and I sort of alluded to it while keeping it somewhat ambiguous during my discussion with Crazy Joe. That's what Christian is referring to. Our friend Veronette March, who last time she was on the show bought me a pizza, making her one of my top 5 all-time favorite guests. That's how it works. You know, it's my stomach's world, and you all just live in it. And that does apply to the show. So anyway, you know, she had shared some messages. She had shared these on Facebook, some messages that she had gotten from Crazy Joe a number of months ago when Crazy Joe was frustrated that, you know, he felt people weren't supporting him on his videos, the Crazy Joe Show Chronicles and so forth. And he was lashing out. And that's what I was referring to when I said to Crazy Joe on the phone, I said, I hope that going forward, you won't continue to lash out as you're now on a more positive path. And I think Crazy Joe is on a more positive path now. I think he just needed someone to believe in him and, you know, and you know, give him some encouragement, and also to kind of try to explain to him a little bit that, look, if people aren't paying attention to what you're doing, it's not something to take personally. It should not be an affront to you and your character. It is, you know, people are busy, you know, and it takes time to build an audience, to build a following, and so forth. But I think he gets it. I think he does. He had Mike Pelopita mentioned in the chat room last week, he had like a 40-minute conversation with Crazy Joe and enjoyed it very much. And that Joe's a very nice guy, but he, you know, sometimes he might get into the character a little much. Sometimes he's a little extra. You know, like I said, I think the young people say that now. Sometimes Crazy Joe can be a little extra. But I think we've got him on a more positive path. Let's see. I think Melanie heard. Was it Crazy Joe using the word girl, or was it me? Melanie said, I haven't checked, but I'm assuming Jenny is a full-grown woman. Yes. Full-grown. In fact, I believe she is medium height for a female. Let's see. Christian says, Jenny's like 21. Yes, she'll be celebrating her 21st birthday in July. Joe Friday's in the chat room. He says, aloha, boys. Aloha to you, Joe Friday. I assume Joe Friday is in Hawaii. Jenny says, you're a good son, referring to Christian. Yes, you know, now that Christian is living with us, Jenny is really enjoying kind of being the sort of taking the mom role. And I for my part, I also think of myself as kind of like a slightly older brother to Christian. Let's see. Christian says he sounds like he has good phone service. Yes, Crazy Joe's phone service does sound much better. Joe Friday asks, is EZG's birthday month officially over? I'm so bad at birthdays. When is what was EZG's birthday month in May? Scott Robinson says, politics is nothing but a game and we are the pawns. It does often seem that way, does it? Does it not? Well, speaking of politics and political figures, I do want to, we'll get into some news stories here. You know, one of the most influential voices in all of politics, and I think you'll agree with me, some of you may take issue with this, but someone who is truly just pivotal in modern American politics and contributes tremendously, I think, to the dialogue in this country, the ongoing dialogue, is and there's some big news about this individual now making waves in the world of politics, and most of you probably already guess who I'm referring to and what I'm about to discuss. Actor Steven Seagal has joined the pro-Kremlin party. Yes, it's true. It finally happened. According to Reuters, Hollywood actor Steven Seagal, a longtime admirer of Russian President Vladimir Putin, has joined a pro-Kremlin party, the party said on Sunday. So the party itself has made this announcement that Steven Seagal is now one of their own. By the way, I've seen License to Kill, and, it's a movie with Steven Seagal is in it. Seagal received a party membership card at an alliance named Just Russia, Patriots for Truth on Saturday. Boy, you take the Just Russia part, and it sounds like an organization that would storm the Capitol or something, Patriots for Truth. Let's see. I'm sorry. I shouldn't conflate these things. This is very important. I should approach this with the proper reverence because we are talking, of course, about, I dare say, one of the top 5 most important political figures of our time and, one of the most exciting B-movie actors of the 1990s, Steven Seagal. Seagal received a party membership card of an alliance named Just Russia, Patriots for Truth on Saturday. A video released by the party showed it was formed earlier this year when 3 leftist parties, all of which support Putin, merged into one. Seagal, a Russian citizen since 2016, proposed a crackdown on businesses which damage the environment. Oh, well, okay. All right. In his welcome speech at a party event, he said, quote, "Without being able to arrest people when we just find them, they are probably making more money of the production of the things that are defiling the environment," unquote. Okay. The party controls a faction in the lower house of the Russian parliament and plans to take part in a parliamentary election in September. Seagal, a U.S.-born martial artist, is best known for producing and starring in action movies, while Putin, who granted him the citizenship, is a fan of martial arts. I think that's how they bonded, by the way, just as a sidebar. Very similar to how Dennis Rodman and Kim Jong-un of North Korea formed their wonderful friendship, because, Kim is a big fan of basketball, just as Vladimir Putin is a big fan of the martial arts. In fact, some of you might remember Dennis Rodman was the sort of the unofficial ambassador to North Korea during the Trump administration. Unofficially, of course. Let's be honest. He was not going to get through a Senate confirmation hearing, not with all those tattoos and piercings. At Saturday's ceremony, Seagal posed for pictures next to one of the party leaders. Get ready for me to butcher a name. Russian writer Zakhar Prilipin, nailed it, who enrolled in an army of pro-Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine and admitted to commanding a combat unit in a conflict which has killed 14,000 people in 7 years. In 2018, Russia tasked Seagal with improving humanitarian ties with the United States at a time when relations between the two countries have deteriorated to their worst level since the Cold War. As a Russian representative, Seagal visited Venezuela earlier this May and presented a samurai sword to the Venezuelan president. Oh, boy. Sorry, the page kind of reloaded here on my browser. Trying to get back to where... Oh, did it go to this other article? Oh, yes. It did go to this other article. Venezuela's Maduro receives samurai sword gift from actor Steven Seagal. Anyway, that's enough of that. But yeah, Steven Seagal continues to be very influential in world politics. It is all very exciting. Speaking of Russia, so we'll kind of move into something more serious here. There is the summit, not that Steven Seagal is, I don't mean to imply that I would ever be unserious about Steven Seagal. I've seen Under Siege and Under Siege 2 Dark Territory, and both just, they're movies that you can watch, and they have Steven Seagal in them. So, there you go. The Guardian reports White House contacts Russia after hack of world's largest meat packing company. The ransomware attack on JBS, probably by a Russian-based group, has disrupted meat production in North America and Australia. You know, this continues to happen. We see these attacks, and part of me, and this is purely self-indulgent, but part of me feels vindicated. I have a friend who I used to spend some time with like 20 years ago, maybe a little more than 20 years ago. And I said to this person once, I said, I've been doing a lot of reading about this, and in the future, war will be fought on the internet. And my friend at the time, who I haven't seen in a long time, laughed at me and said, "That's ridiculous." And I wish I had kept in touch with this person. Can't even find him online because, everything I read and everything that I tried to communicate to him at the time has turned out to be true. And hacking is a big part of war. It's cyber war. It's not the kind of war where people are shooting at each other and launching missiles and things like that. And by the way, if we're going to engage in warfare with Russia, I would prefer it be cyber war than, say, a nuclear war, which is, of course, the last option that I would ever want to see chosen by either side. But this does continue to keep happening. It says here, again, this is from The Guardian, a ransomware attack against the world's largest meat packing company that has disrupted meat production in North America and Australia originated from a criminal organization probably based in Russia, the White House said today. The attack on Brazil's JBS caused its Australian operations to shut down on Monday and has stopped livestock slaughter at its plants in several U.S. states. The ransomware attack follows one last month on Colonial Pipeline, and we all remember how devastating that was. The largest fuel pipeline in the United States that crippled fuel delivery for several days in the U.S. Southeast. Yeah, we didn't really feel the full brunt of that here where we are in the Northeast here in New Hampshire. Obviously, our gas prices went up, but not terribly. But in some parts of the country, people were hoarding gasoline to the point that they were actually filling garbage bags with gasoline, which is a horrendous idea because the gasoline will actually eat through the garbage bag and end up all over wherever you set the bag of gasoline, probably in the trunk of your car. And then you're driving around in something that might explode because there's gasoline and, you start the engine and there's a spark. And it's hopefully that was a teachable moment for some people, by the way. If there's, we have to find these silver linings where we can. So if there's a silver lining to what happened with the Colonial Pipeline, maybe it was a teachable moment for some people. Don't put gasoline into a garbage bag. And no, the brand doesn't matter. If it's a hefty bag, with the triple ply or whatever it is, that's not going to make any difference. It's going to end in disaster, and it's for no reason. Look, hoarding generally ends up not having much point. Remember at the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic of COVID-19, what were people doing? They were hoarding toilet paper. Not really necessary, actually caused more problems than it solved. I guess the larger lesson there is don't be a hoarder. The White House spokeswoman, Karine Jean-Pierre, said JBS had given details of the hack to the White House, that the United States had contacted Russia's government about the matter, and that the FBI was investigating. Jean-Pierre said, quote, "The White House has offered assistance to JBS, and our team at the Department of Agriculture have spoken to their leadership several times in the last day. JBS notified the administration that the ransom demand came from a criminal organization likely based in Russia. The White House is engaging directly with the Russian government on this matter and delivering the message that responsible states do not harbor ransomware criminals," unquote. Let's see. We have a call. We'll grab this. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
Matt, I'm sorry it cut out like that.
Oh, that's all right, Crazy Joe. Actually, it was kind of ironic that you cut out right after you were telling us all about your great new phone.
Well, I'm on a cell phone, but I was going to
Yes.
call you on the new phone, but I think I'll wait till Thursday to do that, unless you have a serious guest.
Oh, I see. On Thursday, we might be joined in studio by our friend Christian Lacoste, and Easy G will be Skyping in to do his entertainment report. It's going to be very exciting.
Oh, okay. So Thursday's a busy day. Okay, so maybe I'll try the
Well, you can still
Tuesday, perhaps tomorrow or Friday. I don't want to. I don't want to call when you have big guests.
Yeah. Well, you can still call us Thursday, but yeah.
Well, I respect your studio time. Yeah. So I just want to say how excited I am. I mean, my God, this is gonna change my life forever. Do you realize, Matt, that you might be changing my life forever? You're gonna make me into a celebrity.
Well,
thanks to you.
That's a lot of responsibility, but somebody has to do it, Crazy Joe, and I think we can. I was just waving to someone in the hallway there. For those watching online who were wondering what I was doing just now, I think that you are destined for stardom, and if it wasn't me, it would be someone else to help you. But I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, it was very difficult. I've been doing it for about 4 years, and I took a year off. And now that I'm back, I bumped into you, and you changed my life. Yeah. I just want to say, everybody in the chat room, please tune in to my show. Please, you're going to love it. I'm not going to say nothing bad as far as, I know I'm on terrestrial. Well, if I get to terrestrial, if I'm on the other one, I don't know, but I'll still practice that.
Oh, did we lose you? We lost Crazy Joe. Oh, call dropped again. Okay. All right. Gonzo made a comment in the chat room regarding Crazy Joe, but I don't think I can say that. Dan Lavasser in the chat says, "Are you poo-pooing on hoarding?" No, you can hoard if you like. I just don't know what the point is. I'm a bit of a minimalist myself. It's like the Tyler Durden character says in Fight Club, the things you own begin to own you. I have a friend, and I guess I can speak about this because he has spoken about it publicly on the show that we do Friday nights here from WMNH from 7:30 to 10 p.m. Retro Spectrum Radio with Paulie C. And I, of course, have the honor and privilege of being Paul's co-host on that show, along with our friend Dan Randlett. But Dan has talked about his dad, who passed away a couple of years ago, who's a very, very nice man. But I remember going to Dan when Dan was still living at his dad's house. This was right after high school. I remember going there, and there were newspapers, just stacks of newspapers. Some people hoard newspapers, and there would be just newspapers everywhere. Bit of a fire hazard, if you ask me. And that might be the one thing I would poo-poo on there, Dan Lavasser. You don't want to necessarily hoard things that are flammable. Joe Friday says, "Hello, Gonzo. Beers this weekend or wine for the lightweights?" Oh, my goodness. Look who's making their weekend plans already, and it's only Tuesday. Let's see. Getting back to this again, this is from the Guardian. This is regarding the Russian hack of our meat. If the outages continue, U.S. consumers could see higher meat prices during summer grilling season, and meat exports could be disrupted at a time of strong demand from China. By the way, so speaking of hoarding, you know what is going to happen now, right? Because of this, you're going to see people hoarding their meat, people with big freezers. I remember when I was a kid, a lot of you probably maybe have had this, or maybe you have these of your own, the big freezer. Like, you got the little freezer that's on top of the refrigerator in the kitchen, but then down in the basement, there's a bigger freezer, and that freezer is full of meat. I know people who hunt, they put the deer meat or whatever in the big freezer. I guess that's how it works. So that's what people who have room for it, they're going to be hoarding meat. That's going to be disastrous. So yes, I guess to answer your question, Dan Lavasser, yes, I am poo-pooing on hoarding. Joe Friday says, "Love hoarding the meat. Where's the beef?" No, Joe. The idea is to not hoard the meat. We don't want to be hoarding anything. We don't want to be hoarding meat. We don't want to be hoarding toilet paper. And we especially, again, just to remind you, we don't want to be hoarding gasoline. That is the most disastrous. JBS said it suspended all affected systems and notified authorities. It said its backup servers were not affected. The company said in a Monday statement, quote, on Sunday, May 30th, JBS USA determined that it was the target of an organized cybersecurity attack affecting some of the servers supporting its North American and Australian IT systems. Resolution of the incident will take time, which may delay certain transactions with customers and suppliers, unquote. So it sounds like to me that I'm trying to figure out, is this something where they're going to need to potentially pay someone? There's a little bit more to the story, but it just gets into some other details. But what this makes me think about is, and we never really got a chance to discuss it on the show, and we're coming up on a break. Maybe we'll dive into it more in the second hour, although we do have some other things too. I have some more Steven Seagal news to share. No, I'm kidding about that. But they call it ransomware because, you know, they hack your company, they hack your software, they hack your security systems, et cetera. And then they hold it for ransom, and you pay them to get them to undo what they did, basically. I mean, this is a hyper simplification and it's reductive, but I don't know enough about it to really speak intelligently about it. But there was a lot of controversy around the decision of Colonial Pipeline when they were hacked and the disastrous consequences that had in terms of gas shortages in a few states. This was not it didn't set off a national crisis, but you know, this side of the country, the East Coast, did see gas prices go up, and there were a few states where they did, in fact, where they were rationing gas, and there were gas stations running out of gas. Like I said, here in New Hampshire, we didn't see any of that. It didn't extend up this far, but it's a very difficult situation when you have something that's affecting so many people. What do? See, Colonial Pipeline paid the ransom. They paid the $5 million. I think that's what the number was, the $5 million to get everything unlocked, and so they could start to get everything back online. But that was a controversial thing to do. See, some people think that if you do that, and that by them doing that sends a very bad signal, because what it tells every other ransomware hacker in the world is this can work. If you can create enough of a disruption, you will be paid millions of dollars. It's the same reason why some people think you should not negotiate with hijackers. If someone hijacks a plane, you know, and they've got a plane full of hostages, you don't negotiate with them. You figure out a way to get in there and kill them. By the way, I'm not saying I don't take that position necessarily. It's much more complex than that. I'm just saying, though, this is why some people say you should never do any of that. It's why some people say, you know, appeasement doesn't work. Actually, I think that's broadly agreed upon in terms of foreign policy. You know, appeasement doesn't work. It only enables the person you're trying to appease to actually be more aggressive. So what do? So Colonial Pipeline decided to pay that money. And a lot of people cried foul and said that was the wrong move, because that just encourages every other cyber hacker and cyber attacker to try to pull that off. But the problem is, it's such a no-win situation. I don't know what the answer is. Because on the one hand, of course it sends the wrong message. But on the other hand, boy, I'll tell you, when the economic consequences are potentially so dire of not paying the money, Colonial Pipeline made the decision to pay the money. And I don't think, it's not like anyone forced them to do it. That was a decision they made. And I guess perhaps it's the cost of doing business, but I don't know what the right answer is. I mean, that is a catch-22, and it's in the true sense. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
Hi, Matt. It's Ron. How you doing, sir?
Hey, good, Ron. How are you doing?
Could be better, but on the pipeline situation, I can only imagine that maybe the FBI kind of wanted them to pay the ransom, and even though these people are sophisticated, but maybe by paying the ransom, it will lead to the people that perpetrated it. I don't know. I mean, it's not as simple as it sounds, but that's the only link that we have, or they have, to the people that did it.
Oh, I think I see what you're saying, Ron. So in other words, you're saying the FBI might have told Colonial Pipeline, go ahead and pay the ransom, and maybe we'll be able to get closer to who these people are, figure out who they are.
I mean, basically, I can't, because it's such a vast thing that I will never understand in my 10 lifetimes. But I mean, it seems like it's the only thing that we or they have that could lead in the direction of, who put it all together and made it happen. I mean, not marked bills. I know it's not paid in cash, but somehow, some way, there's got to be a trace, and a person that picks it up and drops it off. I don't know, but maybe that's the absolutely only way to, figure it out, is to pay the ransom.
You might be right. That is very possible. Now, I haven't seen that, but that doesn't mean that it's not necessarily the case, because it may be that, the FBI did privately encourage Colonial Pipeline to go ahead and do that. Because maybe it would. It's actually, that's a great theory, Ron. Joe Friday is in the chat room. He says, I'm in agreement with Ron. It's a good theory. It's very sound. I mean, I don't know. And we may never know. We may never know. But
Gotcha.
It is a good theory, though. I think you
right,
might
Bill.
be right. Yeah. All right.
Thank you. Hey, I don't know why, but it's funny when I talk with you. I don't know. It's because sometimes maybe you're walking away from the mic, but you go in and out, in and out. When I hear you clearly, I hear you clearly. But when you fade out, it's far away.
I don't know. You might be on the same phone plan as Crazy Joe.
See, now I'm hearing you very good. But no matter what, just wanted to say my 2 cents, and I'll listen to the rest of the show.
All right, Ron. Thank you for the call, my friend. I appreciate it.
Oh, bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. It's a good theory. It's like, you see it on TV and in movies and in books when the FBI will say, okay, so these, somebody takes a hostage, a classic movie storyline. Somebody takes a kid hostage, and the FBI tells the parents, we're going to have you go ahead and make the drop, but we're going to be close by. You're going to tell them when you talk to them on the phone that you'll be alone, no tricks, but in actuality we'll be waiting and there will be a trick and we'll get them this way. So this is, that writ large, but very possible. Joe Friday says, we all need a fall guy, even the FBI. Eric Street in the chat room says, someone on YouTube started a fire at a gas station by trying to kill a spider with a lighter. Oh, now see, I'm glad you mentioned that, Eric Street. Now, I was not aware of this, but I will look for that video on YouTube. That's another teachable moment. See, there's all kinds of things that you need to avoid when it comes to gasoline. So avoid putting gasoline in a garbage bag. Avoid trying to kill a spider with a lighter at a gas station. These are just bad ideas. And I've even heard stories, and there's probably video of it happening on YouTube. I've never looked, but I had somebody who works at a gas station tell me once that I was surprised at how common it is. Apparently, this individual had seen it happen multiple times in the time that they worked at this gas station, where somebody forgets to remove the nozzle from their gas tank. when they're done pumping gas, they forget to remove the nozzle and put it back on the thing, and they drive off with it still connected, and then everything doesn't explode or anything like that. It just comes off, but it's very embarrassing. All right. On that note, let's take a break because we are a little bit past the top of the hour. I'll play a little Public Enemy. I haven't played this in a little while. And so we're going to play something, and then we'll show some love to our sponsors so we can pay the bills, and then we will be back with hour number 2 of Matt Connarton Unleashed. Don't go away. There's plenty more to come. Welcome back, everybody. We are well in hour number 2, numero dos of Matt Connarton Unleashed, and we are live from the studios of WMNH 95.3 FM in glorious downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. Also on Comcast 97 if you're in Manchester, streaming at WMNHradio.org. And we have a call. We'll grab this. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
Matt, Ronnie, one more time.
Yes.
Hey, 2 things. One, don't get mad at me, but I think I'm going to start hoarding corned beef. And I know how much you like it, but I think I'm going to start hoarding the corned beef.
Ron, you can hoard all the corned beef you want. Have at it.
Hey, listen to me. I don't own a computer. I know nothing about computers. The only access I have to the internet is through my remote control. I got a smart TV remote control. And a week ago or 2 weeks ago, because I look up everything on there that you could possibly look up. And, I keep it clean, nothing outrageous. But I said, YouTube, tell me about the dark web. And I didn't know anything about it. I guess there's the regular web, there's kind of like a medium web, and then there's the dark web. Well, they brought me into the dark web. And I could just browse and browse and browse. And there were people that would explain the dark web and saying how you can buy guns and missiles and tanks and anything and everything. And because it's done on such a level that I'll call it a server, maybe it isn't a server, but one server will communicate to another one, and then all across the world they start communicating, and it's done so quickly and somehow that it can't be traced. But if you ever, look into the dark web, and it said, stay off the dark web, don't buy things, whatever you do. But if you ever wanted to, they said, this is the way you can buy things and you won't get ripped off and the this and the that. But it talked about all the reasons you don't want to be on it. And that was the first and last. I dropped it, but it's a scary thing. But they said, you could hire someone to do anything you wanted. And so maybe that, back to the money and the FBI, maybe that the guy's smarter than the rest of us, and he's already figured out a way to have it, deposited somehow, some way through that dark web thing. So that's it. It's hard to converse on something so very little bit about.
Absolutely. All right, Ron. Well, thank you.
All right, kid.
All right, thank you for the call.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. Yes, the dark web. Well, as I've often said, that's how you can find my other show, Matt Connarton Unsheathed, which is not carried here on WMNH, but is in fact only available on the dark web. And I'm legally prohibited from telling you how to find it, and it is behind a paywall. But yes, the dark web. Yes, I don't go there. Let's see. Joe Friday in the chat room says, yikes, it can all be traced, Ron. Yes. The dark web. Scott Perry of Courtesy Call is in the Facebook live chat. He says, thank you to all who listened to episode 20 last Sunday. Let's see. Yes, Courtesy Call, a great political podcast done by our friend Scott Perry, who's been on the show, and we'll have him on again in the future. But he has a new episode every Sunday. Every Sunday. By the way, and I do want to move on to a couple of other things before we run out of time. But, well, we've got a bit of time left. This sometimes people bring up, why the worry about Russia so much? And it actually surprises me a little bit when I hear, and I'll just give you an example. Sagar Enjeti, who is one of the hosts of a show called Rising, which is on thehill.com and on their YouTube channel. So The Hill is thehill.com is a website that I like a lot. And it's The Hill as in Capitol Hill. It's a great political site. But they also have a show that they produce Monday through Friday, hosted by Sagar Enjeti and Crystal Ball. And Enjeti is the conservative, and Crystal Ball is, and yes, that is her actual name, Crystal Ball. She is the liberal, and it's a really good show. And I have to say, I think in many ways it is far more substantive than anything that you'll find on cable news. So I really recommend it if you haven't checked it out. And I have no affiliation with these people. I don't get any money for saying this. I'm just recommending the show because I think it's really good. Rising, it's called. You can find it on thehill.com or on the Hill's YouTube channel. But Sagar Enjeti did something the other day, and he's my favorite conservative right now because I find him to be, and I'm not a conservative, so I probably disagree with him on many things, although I do agree with him on a few things. But I find him to be very intellectually honest. He doesn't engage in a lot of whataboutism. He's not, I wouldn't necessarily call him a never Trumper, but he's not particularly pro-Trump either. He's, kind of calls it like he sees it. Obviously he agrees with Trump on a lot of policy and will say that, but he also has never been afraid to call Trump on his BS. So I like Sagar Enjeti a lot, and I trust him. But he did something the other day where he's talking about Russia and how, we need to be tough on Russia. And, he seemed to be, and again, he's a conservative, but he seemed to be somewhat encouraged by the Biden administration clearly taking a tougher stance on Russia than the Trump administration did. But he made a comment. He made a comment about why are we so concerned about he called them a failing petrol state. In other words, they're not great economically. There's been a lot of deterioration there. And a petrol state, petrol, however you want to pronounce it, meaning, they produce oil. And a lot of countries obviously depend on countries that produce oil. And that's it. In other words, he was basically saying Russia's not a big deal. So why do we worry about them so much? Why do we focus on them so much? And it surprised me to hear that coming from him because he is a conservative who I think is very, very smart, far more sophisticated than any of the people you'll see on Fox News like Tucker Carlson or Greg Gutfeld, who every time I look at him, I think this guy just desperately wants to be Adam Carolla. He's a poor man's Adam Carolla. But Sagar Enjeti, a true intellectual conservative, more in the mold of, say, George Will. He's like a young George Will. So someone who I may disagree with on a lot of things, but I can really respect and appreciate his point of view and constructs very smart intellectual arguments. But to hear Sagar Enjeti say, Russia, they're just a failed petrol state. What are we worried about? Why? It was kind of stunning to me. Here's why. I mean, well, there's more than one reason, but the thing about Russia is, and this is why we get very, very concerned when they're doing things like, when they annexed Crimea in Ukraine, when they seem to be doing things to sort of antagonize NATO our NATO allies with these, whether it's the buildup of troops on somebody's border or just the amassing of weapons in a concentrated area. There's a very good reason why we get very concerned about Russia. And I feel like Sager and Jetty and a lot of people, they just, they forget. They forget something that should be very obvious. And it concerns me so much and it worries me so much, I almost hate to bring it up because it's something that I worried about a lot growing up. Growing up, during the Cold War, I'm a Cold War kid. Great band, by the way, Cold War Kids. I like that song, Cannonball. Maybe I'll play it at the end of the show. But, I grew up in the 1980s, and I was very worried about the threat of nuclear war. I mean, I'm young enough that, the Cuban Missile Crisis had happened before I was ever born, so I didn't have to live through that. I can only imagine what that must have been like. But there's a very simple, you can call them a failed petrol state. You can not take them seriously as much as you want to, but it doesn't change a fundamental reality about Russia. Next to the United States, Russia has the largest nuclear arsenal in the world. We should continue to be concerned about Russia for the same reason we get so concerned about North Korea. Does Sager and Jetty also think that we should just dismiss North Korea and not worry about them, not worry about Iran, not bother to try to restart or at least our own reentry into the Iran nuclear deal? To suggest that we need not be worried about Russia, to me, is to suggest that we need not be worried about anyone who has weapons of mass destruction. Russia now has, if you believe them, and we had John Hopwood on the show one day, and, he's very much an expert on this. And I always find his perspective on this reassuring because he doesn't take Russia that seriously, it would appear. We were talking about, and this was a couple of years ago when Vladimir Putin announced the advent of the hypersonic missiles, the hypersonic nuclear missiles that he claims Russia now has. And hypersonic means they travel faster than the speed of sound. Now, if that's true, and if they have these, that's very frightening. After the 2000 election, when George W. Bush, when the Supreme Court awarded the election effectively to George W. Bush and his vice presidential pick, Dick Cheney, after it became apparent that they were going to be taking power in the White House, Joe Friday says, I hear the king of all farts can blast the speed of sound. I've heard that too. And by the way, that's another thing we should be very concerned about because that's also very dangerous. And that could potentially do more damage than a nuclear missile if some of the reporting that I've read is accurate. Glenn Greenwald has done some great work on that about the destructive power of the king of all farts. But even though he doesn't like to be called that anymore from what Eric tells us. But after the Bush administration, it was before the inauguration, but when it became apparent that the Bush administration was going to take power, I saw Dick Cheney on Nightline being interviewed by Ted Koppel. Now, I don't like Dick Cheney. I have a newfound respect for one of his daughters recently, but I don't like Dick Cheney. And I think in many ways, you could make the argument that he is fundamentally evil. You could even call him a war criminal. I don't know if you want to go that far, but I don't like Dick Cheney, and I don't give him credit for much, but I've always given him credit for this. It was during that interview with Ted Koppel, the subject of Russia came up. And Dick Cheney said, and I've never forgotten this, I've never forgotten these moments. Joe Friday's making me laugh. I've never forgotten this moment when Dick Cheney said, one thing that we must never forget, maybe we don't want to focus on Russia, maybe we don't want to take them seriously, but one thing we must never forget, and I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember his exact words, but I think I've got it pretty close. Russia, the former Soviet Union, still has the capability to destroy the United States. And it was, and he put it in, one of the only people I've ever heard put it in such blunt, stark terms, but also 100% accurate. It was true then. It's true now. It's true now. So anybody who wants to be dismissive, like Sagaranjetti was, and again, I was stunned by his comments, you're forgetting something extraordinarily important and something that we must always remember and something that continues to make me very nervous even now. Russia has right now the capability, the nuclear capability to incinerate most of this country in less time than it takes to have a pizza delivered. Facts. So the idea that we don't have to worry about them that much, we don't have to take them seriously, they're a failed state. Well, you don't want them failing too much. You don't want them to completely implode. You know, as much as we don't like Putin, as bad as Putin is, what if somebody even worse takes over? What if somebody crazy takes over and they have access to those nukes? And I have. See, this is the true. This is why I bring this up. So this is from thebulletin.org. Nuclear notebook. How many nuclear weapons does Russia have in 2021? Now, during the Obama administration, by the way, the Obama administration, and some people made fun of him for it, which I thought was bizarre. Some people did. War hawkish people. People you might see appearing on cable news shows talking about the need for building more and more weapons, who also, and they won't tell you on these cable news shows, they won't mention that, you know, former general, retired General Barry McCaffrey, or retired Colonel Jack Jacobs, or whoever. These people who go on these cable news shows and talk about having a really hawkish foreign policy, and we need more weapons and we need more war. The answer to war is not always, but very often, we need more war. And there's never any sort of disclaimer. There's never any sort of reminder for the viewers. Oh, by the way, you know, Colonel Jack Jacobs currently serves on the board of Raytheon, or I don't know that he does. I'm just using an example. Or retired General Barry McCaffrey currently serves on the board of Boeing, and, you know, they make things that kill. And, you know, there's never any mention of that. There's no disclosure. And so a lot of these people, they would take issue with Obama's efforts to work with Russia to reduce the number of nuclear weapons in the world. But you can, and not have anyone be less safe, certainly, not have any less of a deterrent. We already have enough of these nukes to destroy the world several times over, and to ensure that, you know, nothing survives. Joe Friday says in the chat, Texas Mike could do some damage himself, beers and barbecue. No, I did not say poutine, French fries with gravy and cheese curds. No, Putin. Here's what, this is from thebulletin.org. And again, I don't mean to be alarmist, but we need to remind people, because there was this, and by the way, I coined this phrase myself. During the 1990s, there was what I call a post-Cold War complacency that took hold, where people thought, well, the Soviet Union has dissolved, so they're no longer a threat. Well, but that's not true. How are they less of a threat? You've got Russia still having all these nuclear weapons. I don't know about the Baltic states, but I do know that there were loose nukes. You ever hear that phrase? That's something that's just those two words together should send a chill up your spine. Loose nukes. In other words, nuclear weapons that went unaccounted for. You had Russian scientists, Soviet scientists, after the dissolution of the Soviet Union, selling nuclear technology information, how to build nuclear weapons, to actors like North Korea, bad actors like North Korea, like I think Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. You've got all this going on. And that post-Cold War complacency took hold on both the left and the right. There's nothing partisan about it. I remember a really bad moment during the 2012 election when, some of you might remember this, Mitt Romney, who was ridiculed for saying this by his opponents, said during I think it was on one of the Sunday morning talk shows, he said that Russia posed the greatest geopolitical threat to the United States. And he was ridiculed. All these people said, what year is he living in? Russia? No, we got to worry about terrorism. We got to figure out how to fix things in Iraq and Afghanistan. We got to worry about ISIS. That's the real threat. Russia? Russia's not a threat to us. Again, it's that post-Cold War complacency. And they all ignored that Mitt Romney, they left out a word when they would ridicule him, geopolitical. Because what was happening at the time, and it still happens, of course, we try to do things. The United States tries to do things at the United Nations, tries to build these coalitions to do things, to accomplish certain things diplomatically and strategically. And Russia gets in the way over and over. Russia gets in the way. That is what Mitt Romney was talking about, a geopolitical threat. That's just one example of how Russia's a geopolitical threat. Geopolitical. See, you can take it's too easy to take things out of context just by taking out a word. So then you got everybody going around saying, and by the way, I did not support Romney in that election. Actually, I voted for Gary Johnson. But he was right. And this was borne out over the course of years preceding. But Romney was right. And I remember one of the debates. It was the one where they were sitting down, I believe. And Obama tried to get real cute and said something he tried to use one of the, this might have been before memes were really a thing, but he tried to use something that the young people might say. And he said to Mitt Romney during this debate, he said, Governor, this was in regard to Russia, Romney's comment about Russia as being the greatest geopolitical threat to the United States. Obama says, Governor, the 1980s called and they want their foreign policy back. He was trying to be clever. He was taking a shot at Romney's comment. Romney held his ground and said, I said it and I meant it. Russia is our greatest geopolitical threat. Mitt Romney was right. I knew it then. We all know it now. I think we all know it now. That's just a fact. And I applaud the Obama administration's efforts to work with the Russians to reduce the number of nuclear weapons, but it was also incredibly naive on the part of the Obama administration, who on a few occasions did seem a little bit in over their heads with foreign policy, to be so flippant about the threat. Just because you're working toward reducing the threat doesn't mean there is no threat. Now, again, so this is from thebulletin.org. A little bit of an update on what's happening here. Russia is in the middle of a decades-long modernization of its strategic and non-strategic nuclear forces to replace Soviet-era weapons with newer systems. In December of 2020, President Vladimir Putin reported that modern weapons and equipment now make up 86% of Russia's nuclear triad, compared to the previous year's 82%. In addition, he noted that he expects the number to rise to 88.3% in 2021. As in previous years, Putin's remarks emphasized the need for Russia's nuclear forces to keep pace with Russia's competitors. Quote, It is absolutely unacceptable to stand idle. The pace of change in all areas that are critical for the armed forces is unusually fast today. It is not even Formula One fast, it is supersonic fast. You stop for 1 second and you start falling behind immediately, unquote. Putin also noted his disappointment with the deterioration of the U.S.-Russia arms control regime, and declared that the United States withdrew from the Anti-Ballistic Missile Treaty, the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, and the Open Skies Treaty under contrived pretexts. He also addressed the uncertainty around the New START treaty. Quote, "We have repeatedly stated our readiness to extend the treaty, but there has been no response," unquote. By the way, they did get that done on their way out the door, if I'm not mistaken, the Trump administration renewing the START treaty, I think. If I get these treaties a little bit mixed up. The Open Skies Treaty we withdrew from because, if I remember correctly, Russia was pretty flagrant about violating it. But again, the larger point that I make here is Russia is still a nuclear threat to us, to NATO. If they move on, this is the whole reason why I never wanted us in Syria. Because I thought the risk of us say somebody on our side shoots down a Russian plane by mistake, or maybe, some people thought we should have put up a no-fly zone. I remember Hillary Clinton advocating for that. We're going to put up a no-fly zone over Syria. Great. So what happens when the Russians violate the no-fly zone? We have to shoot them down? Great. We shoot them down. Then what happens? Things escalate very quickly, and that's very dangerous. We have a call. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
Hi, Matt. Ron. Hey, I just wanted to ask you one question.
Yes.
In regards to Russia and anybody else. With nuclear attacks, how can Russia attack us or anyone knowing that the retaliation will be their own destruction? Because we can launch from air or sea or land, and so if we know they're on our way, we're going to send ours. So I would think that that's the only thing that protects all of us from nuclear attacks is the threat of the retaliation.
Right. Yes. Mutually assured destruction, MAD, which is something I heard a lot about growing up. No, you're right, Ron, and that hopefully keeps us safe. The problem is it's not perfect. If you ever look, it's interesting research, but also very terrifying research to do. The number of times, if you look into the number of close calls is shocking, and just the ones that we know about, close calls because of maybe a misunderstanding or a miscommunication, close calls because a system somewhere malfunctioned.
Sun glare.
What's that?
Sun flare caused the system malfunction.
Yep.
Russia thought for sure that missiles were coming in, and they had one person who risked his job saying, "No, do not retaliate. This is a fluke," and it was a sun flare.
Yep. I know exactly. Yeah, there's a whole documentary about that that's really interesting, Ron. I know the guy you're talking about. He actually passed away just within the last couple of years. I'm looking for his name, but yeah. So that's the thing. We can't depend on mutually assured destruction on that concept to protect us. There's just too many things that can go wrong.
Yeah. All right. I want to go back to listening. Sometimes I get more information by listening, but I just had to put in my 2 cents.
No, I appreciate it, Ron. That was a great insight. Thank you for calling.
All right, brother.
All right, man.
Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. I'm looking for the guy's name. I cannot remember his name, But so what happened is, so for those who don't know, Stanislav Petrov. So what happened was, and I wish I could remember the name of the documentary. There's probably more than one that's been made about this. But this was, when was this? Like 84. It was during the Reagan administration. Well, basically what happened, because, we're it's already a quarter of, geez. Goes by so quick. Here's the short version. And if you want to look it up on your own, again, his name is Stanislav Petrov. He died in 2017 at the age of 77. So he's sitting in a silo or whatever, some sort of control thing where in Russia, he's in the Russian military and he's in charge of monitoring things incoming. We have NORAD. He's in, I guess, the Russian version of NORAD. So he's keeping an eye on things, and he sees that the radar is showing an incoming ICBM, an intercontinental ballistic missile, from the United States. So imagine it, if you can. He's sitting there. This is his job, is to monitor this. And if he sees something, he's got to alert somebody that he sees something. And then he's got to launch. He's got to start launching nukes. So he's sitting there, I'm sure, never thinking that anything's actually going to happen, right? He's sitting there, and it shows up on his radar. There's an incoming nuclear missile from the United States. And he waits. And I think, instead of doing what he was supposed to do, what he was required to do, what the protocol said, he waited. And then I think, if I remember correctly, it showed a second missile and even a third missile had launched. So I think he's got 3 incoming nuclear missiles from the United States, and he doesn't act. And his reasoning was he believed it was a mistake. He believed that something had gone wrong and that there were not actually 3 nuclear missiles incoming. The reason he believed that, part of it was probably wishful thinking. Part of it was probably, oh my God, this is it? I'm going to have to respond to this, and we're going to have a big nuclear exchange. This is Armageddon. I'm going to die. We're all going to die. That probably played a role in why he didn't follow protocol. But as he explained, part of what made him think that this might be a technical malfunction is it didn't make sense to him that there would only be 1 or 2 or 3 missiles, because he knew from his training, if we were attacking Russia, we weren't going to just launch a few. We would launch a full, it would be, I don't know, hundreds, maybe thousands at once, right? Because, you hear about this, this concept, another concept that you hear a lot around this, in addition to mutually assured destruction, is first strike capability, or a first strike advantage. So the theory being, and it's obviously a very flawed theory, but the theory is you want to get in a nuclear exchange. You want to get in the first strike because they're going to hit back, and then you can't respond to when they hit back. They're going to try to hit back before they get hit by what you're hitting them with. And then once they've hit you back, you're not going to be able to hit them back a second time very much, because a lot of your what you have has been destroyed by them hitting back at you, etc. So you always want to get the first strike. You want that first strike advantage. So his training told him, well, wait a minute. If they were attacking us with nuclear weapons, it would be a total bombardment all at once. It would not be just 1 or 2 or 3 missiles. That doesn't make sense. I think that something's malfunctioned. And it turned out he was right. That guy, It is not an overstatement to say Stanislav Petrov saved the world. He literally saved the world. None of us would be here were it not for that guy. So, and then so after that incident, when they figured out what had happened and that he was right, they were in an awkward position in the Russian military because on the one hand, you can't have insubordination. You've got protocols. You have to follow them, especially when it comes to something like another country attacking you. You can't just say, well, you know, my gut tells me something else, so I'm not going to follow the protocol, right? You couldn't do that in any military in any country, right? You can't do that. Can't just go rogue like that. But what was awkward is, so in theory, right, they got to, what do they do? Throw him in the brig or something, right? On the other hand, yes, he was insubordinate. He violated protocol. He was derelict in his duty. He didn't do what he was supposed to do, right? But on the other hand, well, he did save the world. Literally. Again, it's not an overstatement. It's not hyperbole. He saved the world. So what do? You can't celebrate him because you can't encourage and justify insubordination, but you can't really punish him either, right? He saved the world. So they didn't put him in, if I remember correctly, they didn't put him in prison or anything like that. But unfortunately, they did kick him out of the military. Trying to just glance at this quickly to see. I can't remember exactly. There's too much information here. I'm looking at Wikipedia. So they did. I think they did kick him out of the military, but they didn't prosecute him for anything or put him in prison because he did save the world. So there you go. But yeah, but to the larger point, there is too much that can go wrong, and there are a number of documentaries about close calls that have happened. There was another one. There was something, I think it was very early in Reagan's presidency. Really interesting. The incident has a specific name. Operation Reagan nuclear close call. There were several. Oh, there's a whole Wikipedia page on list of nuclear close calls. Anyway, there was an incident during the Reagan administration where we were conducting war games, but the Russians thought that what was happening was not a war game, but was legitimate. And so they almost ended up attacking us with nukes. Just another example. We have a call. This will probably be the last call of the show today. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed. Who's this?
Hi, Matt. Ron, I want to hear what you had to say. But wasn't the Bay of Pigs another incident?
Yeah, well, the Bay of Pigs, and then what happened with Cuba later, of course, with the Cuban Missile Crisis, which, come to think of it, Ron, I presume you remember the Cuban Missile Crisis, right? You're old enough. You were alive then, right?
Yeah, but I didn't understand it, but I remember it, yeah.
Were you a young kid?
I was young. I was, but I mean, I remember it happening.
Yeah, I mean, do you remember? Do you remember much about it? Like, do you remember? Were people?
No, I do not. I mean, I was still playing with yo-yos.
Oh, okay. Well, probably just as well, right? Because that's not something you'd want to have to experience with the full breadth of knowledge of what could potentially happen. You know.
Okay. Go back to finishing, if you got the time, to talk about your the exercise. I do want to know about that. I think I already heard about it. You'll be refreshing my memory. Talk to you.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Ron. Bye-bye. Yeah, that would be a scary thing to live through. Jeez, the stress of that. No, there was something specific. I don't know if I can find it. Because the name of the incident is right on the tip of my tongue. Might have to save it for another day. But yeah, there was this, I want to say it was like, no, I was going to say Broken Arrow, but that's a movie. No, but yeah, the Russians thought they were listening, because they were monitoring our communications. So there were these war games going on, and the Russians misunderstood and thought that the war games that were happening were actually a buildup to prepare to launch a first strike on them from us. So that almost went up in flames. But yeah, if you look up online, there's an entire Wikipedia page of just nuclear close calls, and allow that if you do choose to look at that, or some of you might already be aware of much of this. Allow that to inform your attitudes regarding the Russians and whether or not we should continue to take them seriously. I argue that we should. There's a bunch of other stuff we didn't get to. We are out of time, my friends. We are all out of time. With that said, thank you to Ron for calling. And, of course, our friend Crazy Joe. Thank you to everybody in the Facebook live chat. Thank you to our wonderful sponsor, the Hop Knot in the Brady Sullivan right across the street. They'll be open tomorrow. Of course, they're open Wednesday through Sunday. A lot of great things, very positive things happening there. Of course, Mike Pelopita from Queen City Cabinetry. Also, I always see Mike in the chat room. Big supporter of all the shows here. And of WMNH. And if you missed any part of today's show, it'll be up in just a little bit at WMNHradio.org. And, of course, on the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page. On my website, rather, mattconnerton.com. I archive the shows there as well. You know what? I think we'll close with this. What the hell? This is a personal favorite song of mine from one of my favorite bands, Tears for Fears. This was one of my favorites growing up. This is Mother's Talk, which people don't know, but if you look up the lyrics, this is actually about the concern that they had over the possibility of nuclear war. So there you go. We'll close out with this. It's the extended remix, so we won't get the full thing in. All right, I'll talk at y'all a little bit later. Bye.